Welcome to my channel. Support our channel by subscribing. Your subscription helps us grow and create more intriguing content like this. Now let's dive into today's story. Let's start third part of the story. I learnt about my wife's affair after finding her wet pants. After that brief encounter with Chloe in the cafe, Liam felt a sense of relief that he hadn't anticipated. It wasn't a dramatic moment. There were no heated words or tears, no grand gestures of closure. Instead, it was simple, quiet, and unremarkable in a way that made it all the more meaningful. It was the end of something that had once been so deeply important to him, but now it felt like the natural conclusion to a story that had run its course. Chloe had been his past, but she no longer held any power over his present or future. Liam walked out of the cafe that day with his shoulders lighter, his heart feeling unburdened. In the months that followed, he found himself thinking about Chloe less and less. The old memories, the once vivid emotions tied to their time together, had faded into something distant. They were still there, but they no longer held the sharp edges of pain and betrayal. They were simply memories now, echoes of a different life. For the first time in years, Liam was able to enjoy solitude without the weight of regret or sadness. He found comfort in being alone, but not in a lonely sense. He had grown to appreciate the quiet moments, sitting on his apartment's balcony with a cup of coffee in the early morning, watching the sunrise over the city, spending afternoons lost in a good book, or going on hikes by himself, surrounded by nothing but the sounds of nature. These moments of peace allowed him to reconnect with himself, to rediscover the things he had once loved but had lost during the turmoil of his marriage and its aftermath. Liam realized that in order to truly heal, he needed to embrace the idea that he didn't need anyone else to make him whole. It wasn't that he didn't value companionship or love. His relationship with Sarah had shown him how beautiful and fulfilling that could be. But rather, he had learned that his happiness couldn't depend on someone else. It had to come from within. While Liam focused on his personal growth, his relationship with Sarah continued to deepen. What had initially started as casual dinners and late-night conversations blossomed into something much more. There was an ease between them, a natural flow that made their relationship feel like it was meant to be. Unlike his relationship with Chloe, which had once felt intense and almost performative, his connection with Sarah was grounded in authenticity and mutual respect. Sarah wasn't perfect, and Liam didn't expect her to be. They had their disagreements and challenges like any couple, but the difference was how they handled them. They communicated openly, honestly, and without fear of judgment. There were no secrets, no hidden agendas. Sarah was the type of person who could sit in comfortable silence with Liam for hours, and that silence never felt awkward or tense. It felt like home. As their relationship grew, Liam found himself opening up to Sarah about things he hadn't shared with anyone else, not even his closest friends. He told her about the betrayal with Chloe, the depth of his hurt, and how difficult it had been for him to trust again. He explained how the affair had shaken his belief in love and commitment, and how he had feared that he would never be able to let anyone get close to him again. But Sarah listened without judgment, without trying to fix him. She simply held space for him, allowing him to express the pain he had carried for so long. She understood that healing wasn't a linear process, that there would be good days and bad days. And in doing so, she helped Liam realize that it was okay to have scars, that it was okay to be vulnerable. In return, Liam supported Sarah in her own journey. She had her own past wounds to heal, her own experiences of heartbreak and disappointment. Together, they created a safe space for each other, one where they could both grow as individuals while also building something beautiful together. Liam knew that this relationship was different from anything he had experienced before, because this time it was built on a foundation of trust, mutual respect, and unconditional support. One evening, as Liam and Sarah were sitting on the balcony of his apartment, sipping wine and watching the sunset, Liam found himself reflecting on how far he had come since the end of his marriage. The journey hadn't been easy. It had been filled with pain, doubt, and moments of deep loneliness. But it had also been transformative. Liam had learned more about himself in the aftermath of the betrayal than he ever had during the years he had spent with Chloe. "You've changed," Sarah said softly, breaking the comfortable silence between them. Liam glanced over at her, surprised by the comment. What do you mean?" Sarah smiled, her eyes warm as she looked at him. "I mean, you seem lighter, more at peace. When we first started seeing each other, there was always this weight on your shoulders, like you were carrying something heavy, but now it's like you've let it go." Liam thought about her words for a moment and realized she was right. He had let go of so much: the anger, the resentment, the hurt that had once consumed him. It hadn't happened overnight, and it hadn't been easy, but slowly, over time, he had released the hold those emotions had on him. "I guess I have," Liam admitted, his voice thoughtful. "I never thought I'd get to this point. For a long time, I didn't think I'd ever be able to forgive Chloe for what she did. But now, I don't know. It just doesn't matter anymore." Sarah nodded, understanding. Forgiveness isn't about excusing what someone did. It's about freeing yourself from the burden of holding on to it. Liam smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the woman sitting beside him. She had been such an integral part of his healing journey, not because she had fixed him or taken away his pain, but because she had walked beside him as he worked through it on his own. She had given him the space to grow and the support to know that he wasn't alone. "Thank you," Liam said softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "For what?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. "For being here. For being you. For everything." Sarah smiled, leaning in to kiss him gently on the lips. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just happy to be with you." Months passed, and Liam's life continued to flourish. His career was thriving, his relationship with Sarah was stronger than ever, and he felt more grounded in himself than he ever had before. He had finally reached a place where he could look back on his past without feeling the sting of regret or bitterness. But life has a way of bringing old chapters to a close in unexpected ways. One afternoon, while Liam was out running errands in the city, he found himself walking past a familiar street. It was the street where Chloe's design firm was located. He hadn't been down that way in a long time, but something about it caught his attention, and before he knew it, he was standing outside the building, looking up at the sign. It was strange being back in this place, a place that had once felt so connected to his past life with Chloe. For a moment, Liam considered walking away. There was no need to linger in old memories. But just as he turned to leave, the door to the building opened, and Chloe stepped out. The moment their eyes met, time seemed to freeze. It had been well over a year since they had last seen each other, and the sight of her felt almost surreal. Chloe looked different. Her once vibrant energy seemed dimmed, her face more lined with stress. She paused when she saw Liam, her expression a mix of surprise and something else. Maybe guilt, maybe regret. "Liam," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say. The last time they had spoken, it had been brief and polite, but this felt different. It felt like the universe was giving them one last opportunity to say the things they hadn't said before. "Chloe," Liam replied, his voice steady. "Chloe," Liam replied, his voice steady. For a few moments, they stood there in silence, the busy sounds of the city swirling around them, yet it felt as though they were in their own bubble. The past suddenly felt very close, like an old book being reopened, even though Liam had thought that chapter of his life was long closed. Chloe looked at him with a mix of emotions, and it was clear that she was as taken aback by this chance encounter as he was. "I didn't expect to see you here," Chloe said softly, brushing a stray lock of hair behind her ear. There was a slight hesitation in her voice, as if she wasn't sure what else to say. "I didn't either," Liam admitted. He took a slow breath, realizing that while this moment felt surreal, it wasn't as overwhelming as he had once imagined it would be. He no longer felt the anger or resentment that used to grip him at the mere thought of Chloe. Instead, he felt at peace. Chloe glanced down at the ground, then back up at him, her eyes searching his face. "You look good," she said, her voice tinged with something like regret. "I mean better, happier." "I am," Liam said, not out of spite or pride, but as a simple truth. He had found happiness again, happiness that wasn't tied to her or the life they had once shared. "A lot has changed." Chloe nodded, biting her lip. "I'm glad. You deserve that, Liam." There was a weight to her words, as though she was acknowledging in her own way the pain she had caused him. She shifted her weight from one foot to the other, clearly unsure of how to proceed. "I've thought about reaching out, you know, but I didn't think it was right. After everything." Liam gave a small nod, his heart feeling lighter than he had anticipated. "We both needed time to move on. I think we've done that." The tension between them, while still present, felt different now. It wasn't the unresolved bitterness of their last encounter, but rather a quiet understanding that the past was behind them. Chloe seemed to sense this too, and for the first time she looked at him without the weight of guilt pressing down on her shoulders. "I was wrong, Liam," she said, her voice barely audible over the street noise. "About everything. About how I handled it, how I hurt you. I've had a lot of time to think, and I know now that I should have been honest from the beginning. I should have been better." Liam listened quietly, letting her words sink in. A year ago, hearing Chloe admit her wrongs might have fueled his need for validation. He might have wanted to throw her betrayal back in her face, to remind her of the pain she caused. But now, standing in front of her, he realized that he no longer needed her apology to heal. He had already healed on his own. "I appreciate that, Chloe," Liam said, his voice kind but firm. "But the truth is, I've moved past it. I've forgiven you, not because I needed your apology, but because I needed to let go of the anger. Holding on to it only held me back." Chloe's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, but she didn't let them fall. Instead, she offered him a small, sad smile. "You're a better person than I ever gave you credit for." Liam shrugged slightly. "I just learned a lot about myself through all of this. About what I want, what I deserve. And I hope you've learned that about yourself too." Chloe nodded. "I have. It's been hard, but I've had to face a lot of truths about myself. I think I'm finally ready to start over." There was a long pause between them as they both absorbed the moment. It felt like a closing chapter, but in a way that wasn't bitter or filled with regret. It was the closure they hadn't had before. "I wish you the best, Chloe," Liam said, and he meant it. "You too, Liam," she replied softly. "You deserve all the happiness in the world." They exchanged one final glance before Chloe turned and walked away, blending into the crowd. Liam watched her go, feeling a strange mix of finality and peace. He had wondered for so long how he would feel if he ever saw Chloe again, if he would still be filled with anger or pain. But now, in the aftermath of their brief encounter, all he felt was a quiet release. He had moved on, truly. That evening, when Liam returned home, he found Sarah sitting on the couch, reading one of her favorite books. She looked up as he walked in, a warm smile spreading across her face. "How was your day?" she asked, putting the book down and standing up to greet him. Liam wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close, and kissed her forehead. It was good. Different, but good. Sarah tilted her head, a curious look in her eyes. Different how? Liam hesitated for a moment, wondering how best to explain the strange encounter with Chloe. But then he realized that with Sarah he didn't need to worry about how things sounded or whether he should filter his words. Their relationship was built on openness and trust, something he had come to cherish deeply. "I ran into Chloe today," Liam said, watching Sarah's expression closely. She raised her eyebrows slightly but didn't look upset or threatened. "Really? How was that?" Liam smiled at her calm reaction. "It was fine. Better than I thought it would be. We talked for a few minutes, and I think we both got the closure we needed." Sarah nodded, resting her hand gently on his arm. "That's good. Closure can be important, even if it comes later than expected." Liam pulled her closer, feeling the warmth of her presence steadying him. "Yeah. I didn't realize how much I needed it until it happened. But I think I'm finally at peace with everything now." Sarah smiled up at him, her eyes filled with understanding. "I'm really glad to hear that, Liam. You deserve that peace." As they stood there together in the soft glow of the evening, Liam couldn't help but feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude for Sarah, for the love they had built, and for the journey that had led him to this moment. Chloe had been a part of his life, but she was no longer the defining chapter. His future was with Sarah, and it was a future filled with possibilities that were his to shape. In the months that followed, Liam and Sarah's relationship continued to blossom. They traveled together, explored new cities, and created memories that filled Liam's heart in ways he hadn't known were possible. There was no rush to define their future, but there was a shared understanding that they were building something meaningful, something built on trust, respect, and love. Liam had learned so much from his past, but now he was focused on what lay ahead. He knew that life wasn't always easy, that love required work, patience, and vulnerability. But with Sarah, those challenges felt worth it. He had found someone who stood beside him not because she needed him to be perfect, but because she valued him for who he was, scars and all. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of their apartment, Sarah resting her head on Liam's shoulder, he realized just how far he had come. He had been through heartbreak, betrayal, and loss, but he had emerged stronger on the other side. He had found a love that was real, a love that didn't demand perfection, but embraced the messiness of life. As the sun set on another day, Liam felt at peace in a way he hadn't in a long time. His journey had been filled with pain, but it had also been filled with growth, and now, standing on the other side of it all, he knew that the power to move on, to heal, and to love again had been within him all along. His past had shaped him, but it didn't define him. He was free. Liam's journey, from heartbreak and betrayal to healing and self-discovery, had finally come full circle. He had faced the pain of his past, learned valuable lessons about himself and others, and found the strength to open his heart to love again. His relationship with Sarah was a testament to the fact that, even after the darkest moments, there was always hope for a brighter future. Liam had found his peace, not in forgetting his past, but in accepting it as part of his story, a story that was still being written, filled with new adventures, new love, and new possibilities. In the end, Liam realized that the greatest lesson of all was this: the power to heal and move on was always within him. He had chosen to rise above the pain, to let go of the anger, and to embrace the beauty of starting over. And in doing so, he had found a love more true and lasting than he had ever known. Liam's journey had been long and difficult, but now he was ready for whatever came next, because he knew he was strong enough to face it no matter what. Thanks for watching and subscribe my channel.